actions, a copy of those actions will be read and declared by the
All right.
inspector.
Also, Your Honor, the state replaced what Madam Clerk's holding her hand, the transcript, rather than the entire transcript, the redacted portion that we agreed to at the bench.
All right, let the record reflect that instead of the transcript of the entire statement of the plea, the court will accept the modified, just the one single page of what it is. All right. All right, then with those two statements, are we ready for the jury? All right, bring the jury, and we'll need the 4 first and then the 12.
Yes.
Judge, was Agent Lees sworn in before? Let's do it again.
Just do it again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I trust you had a good lunch. Let me explain one thing and clarify one thing. Prior to Agent Neese being called, when Assistant District Attorney Bourne was on the stand, I indicated to you that I had made a ruling on a motion or an objection. In no way did I intend to indicate to you that I felt that the state had met its burden on that particular factor, nor did I intend by my inartful wording to indicate to you that I had an opinion about whether that was sufficient evidence or not. You are the triers of fact, and you will be the ones who will determine whether the state has met its burden of proving to you the factors that are set forth in the statute regarding the death penalty. So please understand, if I made some statement that would indicate I had an opinion or that I thought there would be sufficient proof, that was not my intent. My intent was only to indicate to you that I had found the other issues to be not relevant, the other testimony to be not relevant, and therefore I excluded it. So thank you. With that qualification and explanation, we'll let Agent Neese begin his testimony with the state.
Agent Neese, you have been previously placed under oath, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was prior to lunch?
It was
Would you state your full name for the record
Nathan Lee Neese,
and spell your last name?
Neese.
Thank you. Agent Neese, in conducting this investigation, you conducted an interview with the defendant, is that correct?
I did.
And you also collected a body camera video, which we've already seen.
Yes, sir.
I want to direct your attention to a couple of different things, but starting out with some of the defendant's statements that he made to you during the interview.
Yes, sir.
Did you ask or did the defendant volunteer any statements about having active warrants for his arrest?
He did.
And what did he tell you?
He said that he knew he had 2 active warrants against him.
Okay. And in the course of this investigation, have you collected the actual open, active warrants that were out for the defendant's arrest at the time the homicide occurred?
That's correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Agent, can you identify this document?
Yes, it's an arrest warrant.
Okay, and it is issued out of what county?
Cheatham County.
And what is the date the warrant was issued?
Date is May the 29th, 2018.
Thank you. I'll pass that as the state's next exhibit.
250.
Agent, can you identify this document?
Yes, it's another arrest warrant out of Cheatham County, Tennessee.
And the date it was issued?
May the 29th, 2018.
And if you look up in the top left corner where it gives the defendant's name, it says State of Tennessee. And who is that against?
Stephen Joshua Wiggins.
Okay. And does it have listed a case number?
It does.
And what is that case number?
It's 11 GS1 2018 CR 83411 count 2.
Thank you. I'll make that the next exhibit.
251.
Agent, if you would please identify that document.
This is another arrest warrant out of Cheatham County, Tennessee.
Okay. And who is it issued for?
Stephen Joshua Wiggins.
And the date of issuance?
May the 29th, 2018.
And do you see what count number that is?
This will be count 3.
Move that as the next exhibit.
252.
Agent, can you identify this document?
Yes, it's another arrest warrant.
Okay. And is that issued out of Williamson County, Tennessee?
It is.
And can you tell us the date that the warrant was issued?
Looks like the 26th day of April 2018.
Thank you. I'll move that as the next exhibit.
253.
Agent, can you identify that document?
Yes, this is another arrest warrant, and this one is issued out of Dixon County, Tennessee.
Thank you. And what was the date the warrant was issued?
Looks to be issued on March the 6th, 2018.
I'll move that as the next exhibit.
254.
Agent Neese, if you were keeping count, how many warrants was that?
I believe that was a total of 5 warrants,
5 active warrants
5 active warrants.
that were issued against the defendant or for the defendant's arrest,
That's correct.
all prior to the homicide?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, Agent, when you interviewed the defendant on June 1st, 2018, you asked some questions and he made some statements about avoiding law enforcement. Is that correct?
He did.
And we've already listened to the interview, and I don't want to play the whole interview again, but I've cut some portions of it. If you would, please direct your attention to the screen.
One question I had, when you walked up to the car, you knew and identified him as a police officer, is that correct?
Yes, I know it was an officer.
What did you ask the defendant, and what did he respond?
I asked the defendant if he recognized Sergeant Baker as a police officer, and he stated that he knew he was an officer.
Okay. So on this particular morning, Sergeant Daniel Baker, was he on duty?
He was.
And he was engaged in his duties as a law enforcement officer.
He was.
Was he engaged in those duties when he approached the defendant?
He was.
Did the defendant, by his own words, recognize that Sergeant Baker was performing his official duties?
He did.
Did he recognize that Sergeant Baker was a law enforcement officer
Yes, he did.
in performance of those duties?
Yes, sir.
If you would play the next clip, please.
Again, when he got and walked up, and he asked what was going on. I told him we had a flat tire and I had a friend on the way. And he was like, okay, and we started just.
Did he ask you for any ID?
He asked me for my ID, and I told him I wasn't sure exactly where mine was because the car was packed to move.
Okay.
You know, and everything, it was, and he was like, okay, and he asked my wife her name, and so,
Agent Neese, you've previously testified that you were a patrol deputy at one time, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've now heard the defendant's statement about what Sergeant Baker did in his approach to that vehicle.
Yes.
Are those in performance of his duties?
Yes, so that would be the normal course of action for an officer is when you come up on somebody, especially someone you're not familiar with, is to ask for identification so that you can verify their ID and continuance of that investigation.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
So he asked you who you were, right? When he walked up, you knew he was a cop, and he was asking you who you were. Who'd you tell him you were?
I told him I was Scott Wiggins.
What social security number did you give him?
Just one off the top of my head.
Just numbers off the top of your head? Is it close to yours?
Yeah.
What?
And Agent Neese, Sergeant Baker asked the defendant what?
He asked his name, who he was.
And again, is that part of his duties
Sure,
as
absolutely.
a law enforcement officer?
Yes, sir.
Attempting to identify the person he's speaking with?
Yes, sir.
And in the statement that we just heard, did the defendant acknowledge that he knew Sergeant Baker was a law enforcement officer?
He did. I said, you knew he was a cop, and he said he did.
Next slide.
And why would you give an officer that you say you're being cooperative with a fake name or a different name and a bad social security number?
I don't have a driver's license.
Agent Neese, did you ask the defendant why you would give a law enforcement officer a fake name?
I did.
And what was the response?
His response is that he didn't have a driver's license, is why he was trying to show that he was somebody else.
Okay. Next slide.
Okay, so that's another kind of interesting statement. What's a cooperative guy with law enforcement saying that if he just could have got the door off open, he would have just run? Why'd you not want him to know who you were?
I don't have a driver's license.
That's it. I'm just gonna be blunt with you. Kill the guy over not having a driver's license?
I got a bunch of violations against me from,
How much paper you?
uh, 5, 10, and 3.
18?
And they're all consecutive.
So, Agent Neese, what did you ask the defendant?
I asked him about the fact that he was trying to elude who he was and that he was that he had a lot of violations against him. And I said, to be blunt with you, when he talked about not having a driver's license, I said, to be blunt with you, kill a guy over not having a driver's license? And he said, no, he had a lot of violations against him.
Hey, that's what we heard him say. He had a lot of violations.
That's correct.
And now he started naming some number of years. Is that correct?
He did.
What was your understanding of what he meant by those?
Objection. No approach.
May?
Judge, I'll strike that last question. May I proceed?
You may, yes.
Thank you. And next slide, please.
You told her what now?
I said, I love you, I'm sorry, baby, I'm going to jail.
Why did you say you're going to jail?
Because I know I got 2 active warrants on me.
Is that when you, so, is that about the time he gets to the window?
I told her, I mean, that's all, I swear to God, I told her, I said, baby, I'm going to jail, I love you.
And she said,
She said, but you're what? I said, I'm going to jail, I love you. I said, she says, I'll be here for you.
Agent Neese, what did the defendant say about warrants?
He said that he knew he had 2 active warrants against him.
He said he knew he had 2 active warrants against him.
That's correct.
All right. I got another slide, please.
Dixon County went to my house on Yellow Creek Road looking for me. That's why I'm leaving. That's why everything was packed up and was leaving state. I was gonna run out of state.
where were you gonna go?
I really decided to Kentucky, Illinois, New Mexico, California, somewhere.
And what does the defendant tell you?
That he was going to run out of state, that he was going to go to, and he named some states that he might possibly go to.
I think I heard him name Kentucky and California, is that correct?
That's correct.
So let's kind of review. Did the defendant tell you that he knew he had active warrants?
He did.
Did he tell you he was trying to leave the state?
He did.
Did the defendant tell you that he knew Officer Baker was a law enforcement officer?
He did.
And just to confirm that, was Sergeant Baker wearing a uniform that day?
He was.
And I'm going to hand you what's previously been marked as Exhibit 243. Can you identify that?
Yes, sir, I can.
And what is that?
This is the uniform of Sergeant Baker.
Okay. And is that the? Can you describe the portions of the uniform?
So you see the uniform shirt. It's a short, what I would describe as a short sleeve Class A uniform. It has the pants with a stripe down the side of both legs.
Thank you. I'll move that as the next exhibit. I'll strike that. It's already an exhibit in the sentencing hearing. So. And Agent Neese, you can identify this document.
So this is a picture of Sergeant Baker's Unit 500. It is a marked Dixon County Sheriff's unit with a push bumper. It is what I would describe as a slick top, and it has a spotlight on the front. It has an eyebrow light bar across the front windshield. It has a distinguishing 500 license plate on the front of the vehicle.
In looking at the photograph that you have in your hands, is there any issue identifying that as a law enforcement vehicle?
Absolutely not, and especially where Sergeant Baker parked his vehicle that day in clear eyesight of the Saturn.
He was parked in clear eyesight of the defendant, if the vehicle the defendant was in.
That's correct.
Officer Baker, Sergeant Baker, had on his uniform,
He did.
and he approached the defendant in his capacity as a law enforcement officer.
He did.
And the defendant knew he had active warrants for his arrest,
There's no way he couldn't have known.
and acknowledges that he had active warrants.
That's exactly right.
I'll move that photo as the next exhibit.
It was exhibit originally in trial as 94, so it'd be 94 in this.
Thank you. And finally, you have reviewed the portions of the interview that we just played. Is that correct?
I have.
And those are clips from the original video and recording of the defendant's statement to you.
Yes, sir, they are.
And I'll move that those clippings as the next exhibit.
That will be exhibit 255.
I wonder if I could have just 1 minute. pass the witness.
Any questions? Thank you, Officer, or Agent Neese. You may step down. State may call your next witness.
On the state calls Lisa Baker. Would stand right here, face the clerk, Ms. Warren.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Would you state your full name for the court, please?
Lisa Baker.
Thank you. And Ms. Baker, you've previously testified, and today you're going to provide the court with an impact statement. Is that correct?
Yes,
And do you have that prepared statement in your hand?
I do.
And would you read that for us, please?
I want to start by saying that my ability to control my emotions should in no way reflect how much I love my husband. I've had three long years to grieve and understand that no matter what is said, nothing will bring him back to me. It feels like yesterday and forever ago at the same time. I used to believe in the good in the world and that bad things only happen to bad people. I used to be the person that thought no matter what, everything will just work out. I used to say things like everything happens for a reason and God will never give me more than I can handle. All of that and all of those pieces of who I thought I was, that is all gone. Any picture of what I had hoped our life to be, is now gone. My life and our daughter's life can never be the same, and we are reminded daily of the depth of his absence. The pain I feel when my child cries out for her daddy is heartbreaking, but I have to be the strong one, and that is so hard. Every girl deserves a good father, and she had a great one. There are so many ways that this life is unfair. Daniel was the very best of the best and so much more than I ever thought I deserved. He was honorable, true, and a love with all your heart kind of guy. There was just no way he could have predicted the outcome of the storm that he willingly ran toward when answering what ultimately was his last call. I believe he was always prepared to do whatever job he was called to do, but no one could have been prepared for what happened that day. I'm truly lost without him. He worked hard every day to be the best husband, father, leader, and human that he possibly could. He helped many strangers and never expected anything in return. He tried to promote good and always lead by example. I have begged many times for God to let me trade places with him, not because I wish to die, but because Daniel deserves to live. This world would be a better place with Daniel in it. Meredith, our baby girl, our precious little girl that has been robbed of an innocent childhood and forced to grow up without her daddy. Meredith was just 22 months old at the time. She was just starting to say, "I love you," and put words into sentences. And now she is 5, and her questions are many. All that I have been able to explain to her so far is that Daddy was working, and he went to help someone, got hurt, and was unable to make it to the doctor. She believes that her daddy is a hero, that every American flag, eagle, and police badge are all just for her daddy. Since his death, Meredith searches the sky every night for the moon so she can blow her daddy kisses and tell him that she loves and misses him. Then at bedtime, she calls her daddy on her Minnie Mouse play phone to tell him about her day and say goodnight. She knows that he lives in heaven, but doesn't quite understand that he is never coming back. That he will never be here to hold her, to kiss her, to watch her grow, to offer fatherly advice, to walk her down the aisle, to meet his grandchildren, to do any of the things that a father would, could, and or should be here to do. All that remains are the pictures, a few videos, and many stories of the great man that I know undoubtedly would have given her the world. The true impact cannot be measured because it will never end. There will never be peace. I personally seek my peace from my Heavenly Father. What about my child? What about Meredith? What should I expect or look for as she gets older and could be looked at as effects from her childhood trauma? What should I expect for her trauma, or should I expect that her trauma will lead her to drug and alcohol abuse, that she will one day be in and out of jail, and that she could one day ruin someone else's family? I'm the only person left to hold Meredith at night, answer her questions, and calm her fears. I do not, as a mother, ever want her to question that I have done everything in my power to pursue justice and promote change. I'm prepared to spend the rest of my life making sure yours, Stephen Wiggins, is miserable. However long that may take, you better believe I'm strong enough and I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Your Honor, the state rests its proof.
All right, for the purposes of the sentencing hearing, the state is now resting its proof. And ladies and gentlemen, I had a pretrial conference with the lawyers involved. The next step would be any proof that the defense wishes to offer. There's some preliminary things that we've got to deal with. So we're going to stop with our hearing today at this point, and then we will resume Monday morning and hopefully be able to move through and conclude the case at the beginning of the week. So we will go ahead and adjourn. If you will step with the officers, please. And I'll have our four go first. Is there anything we need to address before we adjourn? All right. Then we stand adjourned.
All right.